Good evening. Gail Howarth with an episode of the Sandhill Cranes of the Lakehouse. You can see behind me, Billy is enjoying a little bit to eat before he heads back to the lake for the night. It's a beautiful night here in Michigan. We had quite a lot of rain, which we needed, and today is that beautiful sunny green day afterward. Both cranes seem to be doing just fine since the fire. They were a bit skittish for the first day or two, but since then it seems just like normal. Rosebud will feed for a little while, and then Billy will feed for a little while. But a few weeks ago, we chatted about the question, was Bud a dud? And we talked about him as an infant, or that juvenile year, the first year, where we determined that he might have been lazy and unmotivated. And normally, once a colt is raced, we don't see that colt again, unless it's just when they first come back from migration. And you might see them for a few days, but the parents do a really good job of letting them know that it's their time to go out and find their own space, find their own companions. But in 2009, Lydia came back, and she came back alone. When Lydia showed up alone, she called and called and called for 3 days solid. It was actually extremely heartbreaking to listen to her call for Roger, and so sad that he didn't come back. On the fourth day, a male arrived, and it was to be her mate. Now, I didn't think anything about this bird other than it was a male bird. I was getting to know him, and I started to recognize some similar characteristics to Bud, her colt from the previous year. This bird would drink from the bird bath exactly in the same manner as Bud had, and I had only ever seen Bud drink with his back legs sticking out like he was a teapot. And the other thing that Bud always did was whenever a person would walk outside, he would jump back like, oh my gosh, there's a person. I've never seen one before. This bird knew who I was, and still, until he left the lake house, was still doing the very same thing. So, was Bud a dud as a partner? I'm going to let you be the judge of that. Bud was not very helpful when it came to taking his turn on the nest. Lydia would call and call and call from the nest. Come and take your turn, Bud. Come and take your turn, Bud. And he would linger in the yard and eat and eat and eat, and didn't really care if Lydia was calling. And then when the first babies were born, they were named Dory and Nemo. We had a lot of rain that year. It was high water. But Dory and Nemo only lived 2 days maximum, and that's because Bud was more interested in eating than following around and making sure his babies were okay. Now, they did have a second brood that year, and their names were Chance and Rerun, and he did okay, but Bud never embraced being a dad in the way that Roger had. He wasn't as protective, he wasn't as doting, and he did not take as much time with the colts as Lydia. Then the other thing about Bud was that he was quick to shift his loyalties. In Lydia's final year, she was hurt defending her territory. She had to defend the territory fiercely because Bud was not a strong male. He was not a fighter. He was not the one that was out protecting the territory. It made Lydia have to be the one to protect the territory. And it was during a battle for the territory when she was injured. Now, it's difficult to watch when you see the colt from the previous year and the partner to the bird, the partner to Lydia for 10 years, attack her, to try to chase her into the road so that she might get hit by a car. They did every disturbing thing possible to Lydia to let her know that this was no longer her yard, her territory, her marsh. And God bless her, she persisted. She pretty much said, I don't care, I'm still going to come to this yard. But you hear often about birds in the pecking order, and they were certainly telling her, there is no purpose for you any longer. You can no longer protect your territory. You can no longer raise young. You're not needed or wanted, and it's our turn. So it was a hard thing to watch. While I understood why it happened and what it was about, I loved my Lydia. So all human logic, I loved my Lydia. So what they did, it didn't matter whether it was the bird way or not. I had a really hard time forgiving Bud, and even Billy, who was then thought to be Crystal. It was hard. And so was Bud A Dud. I'll let you be the judge of that. Thanks for watching Sandhill Cranes of the Lakehouse, and I hope you're enjoying the series. And if you do enjoy it, please consider sharing, subscribing, and liking. See you next time.